This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What is going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back here on Road Graders. It's been a long summer of no football. Obviously, I love the nice weather, but I miss you guys. I miss the Baltimore Ravens, and we are starting to ramp things up, meaning we're going to get into some stuff here on the channel. Welcome into Road Graders with our training camp preview series, or I guess we'll call it preseason preview series because we're already in the midst of training camp, where we're going to be going position by position, doing a little wrap up, taking a look at some of the key players competing for roster spots. And I'm going to give you guys some of my thoughts around where I think the final 53 is going to land across each position group. If you guys are looking forward to this year, if you're looking forward to more content on Road Graders, especially as we await that film, which will be coming in the preseason games, hit that like button, hit subscribe if you're new here. And a big thank you to BetUS for sponsoring this channel. I'm going to be working with them this summer or this season. Really looking forward to it. Check my link down below, or check the link down below for some of the stuff that they can offer for all your gambling needs. So going into the season, I mean, this is one of those position groups where obviously there is no competition for the starter. Lamar Jackson will be your starting quarterback. Shocker. Hardcore analysis here on Road Graders, but there is going to be some interesting competition, especially going through preseason games for the backup spots. And, I know some people don't get as into preseason football, but I'll take any NFL football I can get. So I'm actually really excited to watch this quarterback battle. You're going to get let's take a look actually here at who we got competing. So obviously we got Lamar Jackson returning starter. No surprise there. But then we got Josh Johnson coming back, who has been one of those journeymen who's always just kind of kicked around, always found a roster spot, been able to kind of spot start, but not necessarily a guy that you want starting a long period of games. And fair enough. That's just kind of the backup quarterback gig. And then we have Devin Leary, really interesting 6th-round pick from this year's draft. I'll drop a link down below if you guys missed my film review. There were some things I really liked about his film. Really good arm on him, just probably one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks across college football. Also an older guy coming out, played a lot of years of college football. So, you're going to get those inconsistencies, and it's all going to be about, can he put his game together and kind of become, one of those backup quarterbacks that, can get in the game and be able to make an impact if needed. And then you got Emory Jones coming in as a UDFA, another guy who hit the transfer portal twice. Started at Florida, I believe, started for them in 2021, transferred to Arizona State, if I have that correctly, before finishing last year with the Cincinnati Bearcats. So a guy that can do a lot with his legs, but, will be interesting to watch in the preseason. So kind of want to start with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, top topic, MVP season last year. And this year it's going to be no different. They're going to be leaning on him. I want to kind of dive into some of the advanced stats real quick, because last year was interesting, right? It was a completely different offense, first year outside of a Greg Roman offense as a professional. And, I think we saw some growing pains early, but then you saw in December how he hit his stride in this offense. And, it kind of shows up in the numbers. Obviously, looking at that 2019 year, the efficiency that the Baltimore Ravens had was something that you just don't usually see. But then you kind of see a little bit of a dip in 2021, 2022, and you kind of saw him take another step up. And I think that's really interesting. Pause the video if you guys want to check these out a little bit closer, because I kind of want to talk about some of the things that I thought he did really well in this new offense, specifically his touch passes, some of the dimes he threw, floating it over linebackers, both outside the numbers and inside. Like, some of these throws, I tried to cover them as much on my Twitter as I could, but some of those were just so unbelievably impressive. And that's really what's getting me excited, was seeing him kind of thrive in that role. So that being number one. And obviously we saw him in an offense that's going to rely less on the quarterback designed runs, using those kind of options at a high clip, which was what Greg Roman's run game was all about. That's why his run game is so good, because he's kind of the option football genius at the pro level. We haven't seen the option kind of sustain like we have with the Greg Roman offense, looking at zone reads, veer reads, all that kind of stuff. But with Lamar Jackson, it did. obviously there were some improvements needed scheme wise with the pass game, but in the run game. So now it's going to be interesting because we're bringing in Derrick Henry. That impact it's going to have on the run game, their ability to kind of go to that more zone dominant offense, which is what we've seen as a transition from Greg Roman, who was more power based and option based. Now we have a more zone based scheme, which we really saw shine with Keaton Mitchell when he came in. But we're going to also see that with Derrick Henry, and that's so much of the success he had with the Tennessee Titans. One thing I want to see is a lot more under center. I just think back to those Ryan Tannehill naked bootlegs where he's running, 30-yard clips, and then you get Lamar Jackson speed doing it. It's just that isn't so much about the scheme. It's more about what Derrick Henry does to a defense, because you need bodies on him. You need to be able to move your box to match that zone scheme because you're flowing the offensive line and leaving the backside unblocked. And that's kind of the key. And then what Derrick Henry is able to do off that and what that can do for Lamar Jackson. So I'm really excited to see how they compare bootlegs with that, especially off the play action game, creating a lot of easy opportunities. That's really what I'm hoping to see, especially early in the game. Get Lamar in a rhythm, get the offense in a rhythm. And there's also a couple areas for improvement that I'm really hoping to see from Lamar. And I'll kind of start it what I see as his number one area for improvement. And it goes across a couple of things. And it's really that split second decision making. So when you talk about a quarterback's decision making, I'm not really talking about where he places the ball, where he throws the ball. I think he does that quite well. He typically will place the ball in a spot where only his guy can get it. It's why his interception rate hasn't been overly high. He's usually putting the ball in positions for his guys to win it. And so it's not that type of decision making. It's more those anticipatory deep throws. Those deep breakers, I want to see those start coming out a little bit quicker, a little bit more decisive, and also in his decision making to scramble. I think there's been so many opportunities where, he could just run for, larger clips and just take easy wins, slide, get down, avoid the contact. If he can kind of get into that process of making those split decisions, I think that's what's going to really take him from where he's at right now, which I mean is an MVP level quarterback, but to that next level where if they start hitting on that outside deep game, I don't know how you defend this offense. That's kind of the missing piece. And I think, we'll talk a lot about the deep ball with Lamar Jackson. That's going to have to improve. But some of that is, a lot of people talk about Lamar's touch on the ball and the deep ball. Some of it's chemistry with the receivers slowing down, that sort of thing. And we saw that a lot with Rashad Bateman early last year when he was the one taking those deep shots. So that's an area we're hoping to develop. I'm not expecting a major impact from a rookie, but Devontae Walker thrives in that role. I'm hoping that can kind of be, a couple times every, quarter of the season where he can make a big play and, focus Rashad Bateman in that intermediate route. Cause that's where Lamar has so much success when he's able to get the defense stacking the box and then hit over the linebackers and the brought up safeties' heads. That's where they had so much success in 2019, especially on those in-breaking routes and exploiting the middle of the field. Mark Andrews being back, what he's going to do there. It's just, but I think to be matchup proof, it's hitting those deep breaking anticipatory throws. That's what I'm looking for Lamar Jackson. And then when we get into the backup conversation here, again, I'm going to pop it back up, but obviously we have Josh Johnson fighting for a role. He'll come in and do that. He struggled a little bit early in camp. You guys read about it when Lamar was sick. DBs were making it rain with interceptions, and a lot of those are coming from Josh Johnson. Not necessarily it's what you'd expect from a journeyman backup. It's just kind of what comes with the territory. But I'm also very excited to watch Devin Leary. Again, a guy that going back through his film, so inconsistent, but when he was on, had some really nice games. I'm trying to remember what game it was last year. Can't think of it off the top of my head. It's in my film review because it was the last game I did. I think I did 3 games that you guys will see in there. In the third game, he was dominant. Like it was some of the throws he was making were silly. And it was just, he wasn't able to sustain that throughout the seasons that he played. Before we kind of get into this next section, I want to go take a look at BetUS's lines here because I do think this is important. Huge opportunity here. This is free money, folks. Looking at Lamar Jackson's lines, you have passing touchdowns over under 22.5. To me, that's free money. Go hit that, win some free money. The only time Lamar Jackson has thrown less than 22 or 22 and a half touchdowns is when he's been hurt. you're gambling on his health here. Same with passing yards. He threw for 3,600 yards last year. So go check out BetUS. Check out those lines. BetUS is currently offering a 125% deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. So go check that out. A lot going on there. A lot of good lines. BetUS is doing a lot of great work this year. Super excited to kind of work with them and get this going. So go check them out. Click the link down below if you want to check them out. And thank you to them for sponsoring this video. Moving into Emory Jones, this is a guy where he is going to be interesting to watch. He's a guy that can do a lot with his legs, but a guy that, I don't expect to kind of come in here and win a job. I think he's going to be fun to watch in the preseason, but I really expect this to be Josh Johnson against Devin Leary. And I kind of want to wrap this up with some of my thoughts on the final 53. Obviously, the big question is, do they go 2 or 3 quarterbacks? And I kind of want to point this out because I think it's important. So Jonathan Jones reported the NFL will now allow teams to promote a practice squad quarterback to the active roster for game days as an emergency third quarterback an unlimited amount of times. So last year, they could be elevated for the 2 or 3 times max. I can't quite remember. But this year, they're going to be able to be elevated from the practice squad as the emergency third an unlimited amount of time. So what I'm thinking is, obviously, this depends on how they perform, is I would roster on the 53 only 2 quarterbacks. This is where it's going to get a little controversial. And I would make it Lamar Jackson and Devin Leary. I would protect Devin Leary. I think he's a guy that if he performs well enough in the preseason, a team could look to poach him, get them on their 53. Quarterback depth is down across the league, and they may want to develop him. He's a guy that did go in the 6th round. But with a little bit of development, could be a guy that they see as a viable starter, which getting out of the 6th round is not a bad play. And then Josh Johnson would be your practice squad that gets elevated. And the interesting thing about this opinion is I think Josh Johnson would still be your backup early in the season, but he would be your practice squad elevation. It's really taking advantage of that unlimited amount of elevations for quarterback spots. And when we get into the other position groups, you'll kind of see why I'm thinking this is the route they go. I think they're going to have to keep some of these defensive players. I think they're going to have to keep 6 outside linebackers pending injuries. It may only be 4 inside linebackers, but they may also want to keep 5 safeties. You're looking at about 6 corners. So, the numbers build up. And this also gives them an extra special team spot where they can kind of take a starter out of that special teams role. So I think you're going to need those numbers for defensive players. And they look at more, usually it's like, I think lately it's been 25 offense, 25 defense, and the 3 special teamers. I think you could see that going to 24, 23 offense, which back in the day, a few years ago, like 5-6 years ago, they were leaning towards having more defensive players for special teams purposes, carrying those extra DBs, those linebackers, to be able to play special teams. So I think with the new kickoff rules, that's also another consideration. They may want to be able to do that. So that's what I'm predicting for the roster, but obviously I want to hear from you guys. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Is this prediction crazy? Do you guys agree? What do you guys see? Obviously, huge thanks to BetUS for sponsoring this video. And go check them out down below. And looking forward to getting into more of these. And obviously, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of these previews. Too long, too short. I want to hear from you guys. That's all I have for you today. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Peace out, everyone.